The official report says he jumped. Security footage shows him alone on the balcony. His fingerprints were on the railing. But they're hiding something from you, and I'm about to show you what it is. Welcome to Traces of Truth. If you're into lesser-known true crime stories told with care and respect, you're in the right place. This is a small channel, so every like, comment, and subscribe really helps us grow. I don't use real crime scene or victim photos, only thoughtful storytelling. Now sit back, get comfortable, and let's uncover the traces of truth together. The Pinnacle stands 68 stories above Toronto's financial district, a spire of glass and steel where luxury penthouses start at $8 million and the wait list to purchase stretches years long. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer panoramic views of Lake Ontario. Private elevators whisk residents directly to their units. Biometric security systems monitor every entrance, exit, and common area. It is a fortress of affluence designed to keep the outside world at precisely the distance its residents prefer. Yet on June 17, 2024, all that technology, all that security, failed to explain how Alexander Vitali ended up dead on the reflective pool deck, 47 floors below his penthouse. The initial scene assessment was straightforward, explains Detective Sophia Nolan, her pen tapping against a crime scene photograph too disturbing to reproduce. Male victim, catastrophic injuries consistent with a fall from height, positioned directly below the balcony of his own residence. No signs of struggle at the impact site. Security footage showing the victim alone on his balcony at 2:17 a.m., approaching the glass barrier, and then... She doesn't complete the sentence, she doesn't need to. The Toronto Police Service ruled Alexander Vitali's death a suicide within 48 hours. Case closed. Another high-powered executive crumbling under invisible pressures. The narrative was palatable, predictable, consumable by a public that has grown to expect such endings from the ultra-wealthy. But Detective Nolan wasn't convinced. Three things kept nagging at me, she continues, spreading photographs across the interview table. First, no suicide note from a man known for documenting every aspect of his life in meticulous detail. Second, he had just finalized a $1.6 billion acquisition that morning, the culmination of 2 years of work. And third, she selects a particular photograph, a close-up of Vitali's hand. The skin around the knuckles appears bruised, with abrasions that suggest impact. These are defensive wounds, she states flatly, inconsistent with terminal velocity impact. These occurred before the fall. This observation, buried in the supplemental autopsy findings but absent from the official press releases, was just the first thread that, when pulled, would begin to unravel the carefully constructed narrative of Alexander Vitali's final moments. The medical examiner's office occupies a modern building in downtown Toronto, its sterile corridors illuminated by harsh fluorescent lighting that forgives no detail. In Examination Room 3, Dr. Helena Markov reviews her findings with the precise, measured cadence that has made her testimony unimpeachable in countless court proceedings. The primary cause of death was unquestionably the fall, she begins, her gloved finger tracing along autopsy photographs. Multiple blunt force traumas, catastrophic internal injuries, damage consistent with impact at approximately 120 miles per hour. But it's what happened before the fall that has consumed Dr. Markov's professional attention. Toxicology detected zolpidem, a prescription sleep medication, at levels significantly above therapeutic range. The concentration suggests ingestion within 2 hours of death. Additionally, we found trace amounts of flunitrazepam in the stomach contents. Dr. Markov removes her glasses, her expression grave. Flunitrazepam, commonly known as Rohypnol, is not prescribed in Canada. It metabolizes quickly and is often undetectable after 72 hours. Finding it at all was unusual. This information was included in Dr. Markov's full report but omitted from the public summary. The presence of a date-rape drug in the system of a supposedly suicidal man raises questions that contradict the tidy narrative presented to the public. There's more, Dr. Markov continues, pulling up microscopic images on her tablet. We found microabrasions on both wrists, easily missed during initial examination due to the catastrophic trauma elsewhere. These abrasions form consistent patterns around the circumference of each wrist. When pressed for interpretation, her response is measured but unambiguous. The pattern is consistent with restraints, specifically zip ties or similar temporary bindings that were removed prior to the fall. The Pinnacle's security system is a technological marvel, a web of overlapping surveillance technologies designed by Solaris Advanced Systems, the same firm that protects nuclear facilities and government installations. Every common area monitored by cameras recording at 60 frames per second, elevator movements tracked and logged, electronic door locks recording each entry and exit, facial recognition software scanning every individual entering the building. Yet this system, despite its sophistication, contains carefully engineered blind spots, privacy accommodations for residents who value discretion above all else. The penthouse levels have modified surveillance protocols, explains Marcus Chen, the Pinnacle's head of security, his discomfort evident as he shifts in his chair. Cameras monitor the elevator lobbies and emergency stairwells, but hallways outside residences have no video coverage. Interior resident surveillance is entirely at owner discretion. Balconies are considered private space. No external cameras are oriented toward them. This arrangement creates what security professionals call privacy channels, pathways through the building where individuals can move with minimal digital observation. For residents, these channels offer respite from constant monitoring. For someone with knowledge of the system, they offer something else entirely: opportunity. The security footage from the night of Vitali's death, obtained through a Freedom of Information request after months of legal battles, shows Vitali returning to the building at 11:42 p.m. He appears slightly unsteady, requiring 2 attempts to position his face correctly for the biometric scanner. The timestamp jumps. Vitali enters his private elevator. Next frame, Vitali emerges on the 65th floor at 11:47 p.m. He walks toward his residence door, fumbles with his keycard, and disappears inside. And then, nothing, until the 2:17 a.m. balcony footage showing a figure matching Vitali's build approaching the edge. But enhanced analysis of this critical footage, performed by independent forensic technicians, revealed anomalies purposefully excluded from the official investigation. The lighting on the balcony created distinctive shadows that suggest the presence of a second person standing just inside the penthouse doorway, obscured from the camera's direct view. If you apply contrast enhancement algorithms to the reflected light patterns on the glass balustrade, you can detect movement consistent with another individual, explains video forensics expert Dr. Neil Aboud, carefully manipulating the footage frame by frame. It's not definitive, but there's approximately 82% probability that someone else was present. This analysis never appeared in the official reports. The physical evidence from Alexander Vitali's penthouse fills 17 boxes in the Toronto Police Service Evidence Storage Facility, labeled, categorized, documented, and largely ignored after the swift determination of suicide. Evidence technician Jamie Wilson reviews the inventory with professional detachment: bedding, clothing, personal effects, electronics, standard collection protocol for an unattended death, even a presumptive suicide. What the inventory doesn't highlight, what becomes apparent only through careful review of the collection logs, is what wasn't thoroughly processed. Water glasses with partial fingerprints, a shower used shortly before investigators arrived, 2 sets of wet footprints documented on the bathroom floor but never analyzed for sizing or gait characteristics. Under suicide protocols, these elements wouldn't necessarily warrant in-depth analysis, Wilson acknowledges. Resources are allocated based on initial scene assessment. Once the medical examiner's preliminary findings suggested suicide, secondary evidence processing was limited. Limited is an understatement. Fingerprints recovered from Vitali's balcony door, prints that didn't match Vitali or any household staff, were collected but never run through identification databases. A single long hair found on Vitali's pillow, inconsistent with his own short-cropped style, was logged but never DNA tested. Most critically, security logs showing a service elevator activated at 2:43 a.m., 26 minutes after Vitali's fall, were noted but never investigated. This elevator, restricted to maintenance personnel, provides direct access to a loading dock with no camera coverage. Alexander Vitali's life before his death offers its own contradictions to the suicide narrative. As founder and CEO of Vitali Quantum Technologies, he had recently secured patents for breakthrough quantum encryption methods, innovations that promised to revolutionize data security while potentially rendering certain government surveillance capabilities obsolete. Alex wasn't just successful, he was on the cusp of something transformative, explains Dr. Sophia Chen, Vitali's former research partner at MIT. Quantum encryption exists, but Alex solved the scalability problem. His implementation could be deployed across existing infrastructure with minimal modification. The implications were staggering. Unbreakable encryption accessible to commercial enterprises and private citizens. Digital privacy that even the most sophisticated government agencies couldn't penetrate. A technology that would shift the balance of power in the ongoing war between privacy and surveillance. Vitali had received acquisition offers from multiple tech giants. All declined. Instead, he had arranged a complex series of licensing agreements that maintained his control over the core technology while maximizing its distribution. The morning before his death, he had finalized arrangements with a consortium of international technology firms. The deal, valued at $1.6 billion, included strict provisions preventing any single entity from gaining exclusive control over the patents. He was methodical about maintaining equilibrium, Dr. Chen continues. He used to say that power concentrates naturally, like matter collapsing into a black hole. His entire business strategy was designed to counteract that tendency, to keep the technology distributed among competing interests, so no single actor could dominate. This philosophy had earned him powerful enemies. Freedom of information requests revealed that Vitali had been under surveillance by multiple intelligence agencies concerned about the national security implications of his encryption technology. His company had weathered 3 sophisticated cyber attacks in the months before his death, attacks bearing the hallmarks of state-sponsored operations. Yet none of these factors were considered relevant to the investigation of his death. The Pinnacle's resident list reads like a who's who of Canadian wealth and influence. Financiers, tech entrepreneurs, old money scions, people with connections reaching into every corner of Toronto's power structure. One name stands out. Nathan Blackwood, former Director of Intelligence Operations for the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, who purchased his unit 3 months before Vitali's death. His penthouse sits directly above Vitali's, a fact excluded from all official reports. Blackwood's presence in the building wasn't flagged as relevant, Detective Nolan states, her frustration evident. Background checks on building residents aren't standard procedure in suicide determinations. Records obtained through persistent Freedom of Information requests reveal that Blackwood's security clearance had been abruptly revoked 18 months earlier, following an internal investigation into unauthorized surveillance operations. The official reason cited was protocol violations, but confidential sources within CSIS suggest the reality was more disturbing. Blackwood had allegedly been selling access to classified intelligence to private clients. Following his departure from CSIS, Blackwood established a private security consultancy with clients including several nations known for aggressive industrial espionage programs. His company specializes in what its marketing materials describe as technological acquisition strategies, a euphemism that former intelligence colleagues interpret as corporate rating focused on proprietary technologies. The connection to Vitali. An email recovered from Vitali's cloud storage sent just 1 week before his death mentions Blackwood by name. Blackwood made another approach through intermediaries. Same offer, different packaging. Declined again. Suggested he focus his attention elsewhere before this becomes uncomfortable for both of us. This email never appeared in the official case file. The human element of Vitali's final hours emerges through fragments of digital evidence, partial witness statements, and surveillance footage from venues outside the Pinnacle. On the evening of June 16th, Vitali attended a celebration dinner at Aria, an exclusive restaurant in Toronto's entertainment district. Security footage shows him leaving at 10:38 p.m., declining the valet's offer to call his driver, instead walking toward the financial district. Street cameras track his progress for several blocks before he enters the Ossington, a cocktail bar known for its discretion and exclusive clientele. Inside, beyond the reach of public surveillance, Vitali met with someone, an encounter documented only through credit card records showing he purchased 2 drinks. He stayed for approximately 50 minutes. The bartender who served them remembers little. Dark-haired person, professional type. They sat in the corner booth. Didn't seem tense or arguing. Normal conversation. Vitali left the Ossington at approximately 11:30 p.m., alone, according to the bartender. Street cameras pick him up again at 11:36 p.m., walking unsteadily toward the Pinnacle. His gait analysis, compared to earlier footage, shows distinct changes in stride length and stability, consistent with mild intoxication or, as toxicology would later suggest, the early effects of zolpidem and flunitrazepam. Who was this mystery person? What was discussed? And how did Vitali, a man known for his caution, who employed a full-time driver specifically to avoid public transportation and ride-sharing services that might be compromised, end up walking home alone after consuming drinks that toxicology suggests were drugged? The penthouse remains empty now, its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that has already begun to forget Alexander Vitali. The balcony from which he supposedly jumped has been renovated, the glass balustrade replaced with a slightly higher model, the concrete beneath resurfaced. Nothing remains to suggest what happened there except the memories of those who processed the scene. Suicides leave psychological evidence, explains forensic psychologist Dr. Rachel Morrison. A trajectory of despair, warning signs, preparation behaviors, final communications. Alexander Vitali exhibited none of these indicators. What he did exhibit, according to friends and colleagues, was increasing paranoia about security in the weeks before his death. He had mentioned concerns about surveillance, had switched to using analog notebooks rather than digital devices for sensitive work, had installed additional security measures in his penthouse that weren't part of the Pinnacle's standard system. He told me someone had been in his apartment when he was traveling, reveals Vitali's executive assistant Miranda Jones. Nothing was taken, but things were moved slightly. He noticed immediately. Alex was meticulous about the positioning of objects in his space. Building logs confirmed that no authorized personnel had entered Vitali's residence during his absence. Yet something or someone had disturbed his carefully ordered environment enough to trigger his concern. 2 days before his death, Vitali had contracted with an independent security firm to sweep his residence for surveillance devices. Their scan revealed something disturbing: a passive radio frequency capture device installed within the lighting system of his home office, a sophisticated bug capable of recording keystrokes from his computer keyboard by detecting minute electromagnetic variations. The device operated on a frequency matching those used by several nation-state intelligence agencies. The security company removed the device. Vitali declined to report it to authorities, telling the security technician, "Official channels are already compromised. I'll handle this my way." 48 hours later, he was dead. The truth about Alexander Vitali's final moments remains buried beneath layers of procedural oversight, deliberate obfuscation, and institutional indifference. The hasty determination of suicide, made before toxicology results were complete, before security footage was thoroughly analyzed, before digital evidence was properly examined, served multiple interests. For the Pinnacle's management, it minimized publicity around security vulnerabilities in their supposedly impenetrable building. For Toronto police, it closed a high-profile case quickly, during a period of departmental resource constraints. For certain power structures potentially threatened by Vitali's technology, it eliminated a disruptive force without triggering the scrutiny an obvious murder would invite. Detective Nolan, who continued investigating independently after the official case closure, found her access to evidence increasingly restricted. Her case notes document a systematic pattern of obstruction, Request for reanalysis of balcony footage denied. Request for fingerprint comparison against expanded databases denied. Request for cell tower data denied due to privacy concerns. Most disturbing was the entry dated August 3, 2024. Informed by captain that continued unofficial investigation constitutes insubordination. Formal reprimand entered into personnel file. Additional disciplinary action threatened if pursuit continues. The message was clear. Alexander Vitali's death would remain classified as a suicide, regardless of contradictory evidence.